Well, the longest leaving to in sport is finally over, and Lance Armstrong has executed a perfect entry into retirement, and as far as the Tour de France is concerned, immortality. Before we recap the final week of the race culminating here on the Champs-Élysées though, let's remind ourselves where we left it last Monday night.
The first yellow jersey of the Tour was taken by CSC's David Zabriskie. He was marginally faster than Lance Armstrong in the opening time trial back in Noirmoutier, while Armstrong was significantly faster than everyone else. Notably, his big rival Jan Ullrich was subject to the humiliation of being overtaken.
Oh, and he took one glance, Ullrich, and he's gone.
Zabriskie held the race lead going into the team time trial, then crashed out of it 1,300 metres from the finish.
Total disaster, the yellow jersey has hit the bend. Well, that is it.
Discovery won by 2 seconds, and Armstrong was back in his familiar colour combination. The moderate climbs of the Vosges were supposed to be a warm-up for the Alps, but Armstrong found himself isolated and under attack. In the end, he was happy to give up the yellow jersey to Jens Voigt before the rest day and wait for the real thing. As soon as the race hit the high mountains, he took it back. Again, he was second on a key stage, beaten by Alejandro Valverde on the climb to Courchevel. It was the time he took off his challengers that mattered. The attacks kept coming through the Alps and the Pyrenees. With or without the help of his teammates, Armstrong was equal to them.
This is Basso launching the attack. Well, look at that. Basso slipped away off the front, and Armstrong, with that incredible sprint he possesses, when somebody hits him hard, has crossed the gap.
Second again on stage 14 to Axel Trois-Domaines, he remained first overall, heading into the final week of his final tour. And his lead was looking comfortable. 2 minutes 46 over Ivan Basso, 3:09 on Michael Rasmussen, and only Jan Ullrich within 6 minutes of him behind those two. Floyd Landis was just outside the top 6 in his first tour as a team leader, 1 spot of Alexander Vinokourov. And the top dozen riders was rounded out by Armstrong's Discovery teammate and tour debutant, Jaroslav Popovic. Well, the first day of the final week took the race out of the Pyrenees, but it went via the Col de Marie-Blanc and the Col d'Aubisque, 180 kilometres with a fairly flat run into Pau after the final climb. A 4-man break led going over it, and in there were Cadel Evans, Oscar Pereiro, Xavier Zandio and Eddie Mazzoleni. Heading into Pau, it looked as though one of them was going to win the stage.
Cadel Evans has different fish to fry here. If he gets just more than a 3-minute advantage over the bunch, then he will go into 8th place in the Tour de France.
He's looking at 8th or 9th place overall this evening as he goes inside the banner, indicating 1 kilometre to go. And I would have to say, Cadel, you need to swing off the front here right now if you want to try and win the stage. But I think he's thrown everything away. He's thrown complete and utter caution to the wind.
So as they go towards the line now, they're heading around the square here. Cadel Evans, he has to do this. It will cost him a stage win. Look at his face. Every second counts. He wants a top 10 finish in the Tour in his first ever Tour de France. At the moment, he's sitting on 9th or 8th place. He's no choice but to drive, and the others are saying, great, then we'll take him on in the sprint. Mazzolini's never won a stage in this race. Pereiro hasn't. Neither, of course, has Zandio, because Zandio's riding his first Tour as well. This is going to be open for grabs now, and Cadel Evans is giving some tremendous effort to the line.
This is the biggest leader I've ever seen. He's led these riders out for about 3 kilometres. Pereiro's going, and now Eddie Mazzolini's kicking too.
Well, Mazzolini's taken on Pereiro. I think we all want Pereiro to win. He's been a great rider. When you get beaten by Hincapie 48 hours, well, this time you get the win. Oscar Pereiro really stuck to his guns and finally gets first place.
And there it is confirmed, Oscar Pereiro doing what George Hincapie did to him on stage 15, letting the others do the work and nicking it from Xavier Zandio, Eddie Mazzoleni and Cadel Evans. Evans, though, was riding for his place in the overall standings, and what mattered to him was whether he'd gained enough time to overhaul 7th place Floyd Landis, who was 3 minutes 20 ahead of him. Well, 3:24 had passed when Franco Pellizotti led home the bunch. Landis was in it, and slipping down the standings. Ferrero, though, was only interested in the stage win, and after second places for both him and Santiago Botero in the mountains, the Phonak team finally had one. There was no impact on the top of the overall standings, though. The time gaps from Armstrong back to Levi Leipheimer in 6th place remained the same. Cadel Evans, though, was up 4 places to 7th. Some people might have preferred the glory of the stage win, but he was thinking long-term and looking at a very respectable finish in his first tour. Meanwhile, days after he'd already been crowned by general acclamation, Lance Armstrong was finally prepared to acknowledge that if all went well and with the following wind, he might just win.
It's always nice to get through the mountains, especially the second set of mountains. That at that point you have a few intermediate days, potentially dangerous days, but the big days and the big difficulties are done. And so, now we have to stay safe, stay conservative, and look to the final time trial and try to close it out. It's not over till it's over.
Stage 17 was the longest of the entire race, 239 kilometres. Bushofton and O'Grady, 1 and 2 in the points competition, were jockeying for position at the start, but that's about as lively as it got in the battle for the green jersey.
The green Viking. You will stay behind me the rest of the tour.
Andreas Klurden, 11th overall, started the day with the intention of ignoring a broken wrist, but the pain wouldn't cooperate, and Jan Ullrich's teammate and best mate had to abandon. Otherwise, it was a perfect day for a breakaway, and it turned out to be the biggest of the tour. 17 riders from 14 teams. So with 2/3 of the race represented in the break, a marathon stage and blazing hot weather, there wasn't much chance of a serious chase from the peloton. Throw in a stop at a level crossing for the tour vehicles, and you knew it was going to be one of those days. When the lead got to 24 minutes, everyone knew the stage winner was going to come from the break, and then the attack started. As we join it on the run to Revel, 4 riders remain out front, and they're starting to play cat and mouse between themselves. They're Sebastian Ino of Credit Agricole, CSC's Kurt Asler-Arvidsson, Simon Gerrans of AG Desert, and Lance Armstrong's Discovery teammate, Paolo Savoldelli.
Now look at this move. You've got to respond to this one.
Well, he's gone. He obviously doesn't think he's a good sprinter because he's using his power this time, and he may have done it right. But Eno, all of a sudden, is finding legs. I wasn't sure then, Paul, whether he pulled his foot off the pedal, but he sat down quick enough, and he's gone back into last place. And Simon Gerrans now will look over to Savoldelli because Gerrans won't reach him.
Oh, if you want to win the stage, boys, you've got to go now. And I think Paolo Savoldelli knows this. There's the Flamme Rouge, the red kite, 1,000 metres. Savoldelli may well have waited just a little bit too long for this one.
Kurt Asler-Arvidsson, I think, may well have done enough here to win the stage now, and it's only his second Tour de France. He was not winning a stage last year. He finished 123rd, but it's a long run now. But if they don't make the move, and poor old Savoldelli's been caught here, the strong man with no help, and he's going to have to take them up or lose everything.
He hasn't given up yet. He's got right on his wheel, Eno, but he was looking over. Come on, Eno, work with me if you can. I don't think he can. You've got to look into the man's eyes. If you can't see that killer instinct there anymore, just go for it. This is the final bend, around about 700 metres to go. Arvidsson is actually lining himself, but Savoldelli, Phil, has come into the wheel, and Eno has cracked.
Eno has gone, he swung off, he went right into the red zone, and a big effort required by Savoldelli here, but I think the drive of the Norwegian, this is going to be, and Savoldelli is creeping up. He's going to try and get a little bit of respite on his slipstream, but as he comes up to the line, I don't think he's got it here. Arvidsson, now he comes. Paolo Savoldelli is finding the extra rev. Team Discovery get win number 2. Lance Armstrong hasn't won a stage yet.
Now, having cruised through the stage thus far, things were suddenly happening 20 minutes back down the road in the main field. On the final climb of the day, Alexander Vinokourov, unable to control his attacking instincts for an entire stage, jumped away. Jan Ullrich joined in, and Lance Armstrong responded. But it was men like Floyd Landis and Cadel Evans that the attack was aimed at. When the main field finally rolled in, it was in 2 parts. Armstrong, Ullrich and Vinokourov were in one group. Levi Leipheimer, Floyd Landis and Cadel Evans were in the other, 20 seconds behind them. So there's the stage result. Savoldelli and Arvidsson in the same time, ahead of the remnants of the breakaway group, and 22.5 minutes back to the rest of the field. More interestingly for the minor placings in the general classification, though, was the 20 seconds between parts 1 and 2 of the peloton. So, Discovery's second stage win in 3 days, and only their second in 7 years, not by Lance Armstrong. Now, this is what the stage result did to the general classification. In that is nothing at all to the top 6, where the gaps between Armstrong and the rest remained the same. Alexander Vinokourov, though, was back up to 7th, leapfrogging Floyd Landis and Cadel Evans. For Lance, it must all be like the distant noise of a fight somewhere in the street below his penthouse. As he was chauffeured away for the evening, Torhushoff was breathing a sigh of relief. Another breakaway win meant no points for his rivals in the green jersey competition. Now, after the break, we're off through the Tarn as the race heads from Albi to Mende on stage 18.
Hello, my name is Torhushoff, more from the tour after this break.
Le Tour de France.
The Tour has only been to Mende once before, and it was one of the great French stage wins of recent years. Bastille Day 1995, when Laurent Jalabert hit the runway at this elevated aerodrome to a huge reception from the home crowd and took what he still reckons is the most emotional win of his career. Another French win on stage 18 looked a remote possibility, to be honest, but really there was no predicting the outcome because of a tiny but incredibly steep hill that started 5 kilometres from the end and only flattened out just before the finish.
At first glance at the profile in the race manual, this looks like a fairly innocuous stage. After all the mountains have finished now, haven't they? Wrong. This climb out of Mende is effectively an Ors category mountain crammed into just 3 kilometres. In fact, at 10.1% average grade, it's the steepest climb in the whole Tour de France. And it comes at a time when all of the peloton is deeply fatigued. Ironically, one person who isn't going to be worried about losing mountain points today is Michael Rasmussen, who has effectively already won the King of the Mountains competition. One thing he does have to look out for is Jan Ullrich, who'll be desperately trying to take seconds and put himself in a podium hopping position before the time trial on Saturday. A couple of other certainties that we're going to see today. 1, there'll be a breakaway, and 2, Vinokourov. For sure, he's going to use this to launch some more attacks.
Now there's the stage, 189 kilometres, and right at the end of it, the Côte de la Croix-Neuve, newly renamed as the Monte Laurent Jalabert to mark the 10th anniversary of his win. As we pick up the stage, 3 men have the chance of emulating him: Axel Merckx, Marcos Serrano and Cedric Vasseur.
Serrano now, Phil, wants to put the pressure on this group. I think they're a little bit worried by the presence of Cedric Vasseur there.
I would be worried too, and the power of the French on his shoulders now, because only 1 stage win so far, and let's not forget, it was Vasseur's teammate David Moncoutier who won on Bastille Day, and now Coffert is looking for the 2nd win, and Vasseur looking very cool, and Dad Alain, I'm sure, is crowding the television set right now. He was a pro in the Tour de France as well.
Well, Axel losing a couple of metres.
Here.
Now this is a big surprise. Axel has put in some very vicious attacks, but now he's lost himself 4 or 5 metres. Cedric Vasseur is looking very comfortable in 2nd place. He's not the climber in the group, Phil. He's the man who's looking at the climbers and saying, look, you guys, if you want to win, all you have to do is get rid of me. And everything they've thrown at him, he's still been able to master and cover. He's still the Frenchman there in 2nd place.
This is an attack from the group here now. And this is a Crédit Agricole rider. I don't think there's going to be too much to worry about this. That's Kashikin. And as the crowds part their ways, Marcos Serrano of Liberty Seguros is fighting here, because this is the team of Joshiba Bolocki. Remember, Joshiba's done a solid ride, but nothing like the rides we've seen in the past from him since he had that bad crash. 15 seconds he's got. 12 3/4 minutes the peloton. We can get those for a moment as Serrano pushes on for the kilometre kite.
Well, we forget about the main field. There will be a battle in the main field when they get to this point, but currently it's a battle of men who are a long way behind in the overall classification, just to trying to steal some glory for the team. He keeps looking to see where is the top of this climb. He will know this climb because he knows all about it. Races have been over here in the past. The Tour de France hasn't been here since 1995, and on that occasion it was a man who was in the same team as this man, Laurent Jalabert. It was formerly known as the Once squad. Look at his face, Phil. He's got his tongue out, he's gasping for air. He knows right now he's within around about 1 minute and 15 seconds of a stage win in the Tour.
And he's about 1.5 kilometres from the finish. He's going to be first over the top of the Côte de Laurent Jalabert. Then it's downhill and onto the flat of the aerodrome.
Well, I like the way you call it flat. When I looked down this aerodrome, it looked as if it was tilting downhill quite a bit to me. These are the two chasers, and the gap to the two chasers is not really very much more than 10 or 12 seconds. But I think the way Serrano was going there, Phil, he must have it in the bag.
It's split here on the approach to the climb by the tempo riding, and I hope Floyd Landis hasn't been caught out there. I think he's tucked on the back, but the other Phonak boys, oh, there he is, we can see him now, because yesterday he did miss out on this approach to the finish. But he's there, just tacked on to the back of the lead group. 4 kilometres to go. This is going to be a big moment for Marcus Serrano, and here he comes.
Well, he's coming in for landing now. He's on final approach as he comes into this aerodrome finish line. You know, he has a man finished 9th overall in the Tour de France, so this is a man of serious quality. And when you get to this point, the body, Phil, I can tell you, is screaming out to stop, and he's pushing it above and beyond the call of duty.
Huge moments, and now's the chance to wave, because he's checked out the opposition, and this is a big, big moment for Marcus Serrano, trying since 1998. Now the sprint for second place here. I'm sure Cedric Passeur will try to take Axel Merckx on, but they've come off so quickly. Here he comes. He's a good sprinter. He'll be kicking himself because he's allowed the Spanish rider to slip away. Second for Passeur, third for Axel Merckx.
Well, it was comfortable in the end for Marcos Serrano, but only because he did the hard work at the right time on the climb. The remains of the breakaway filled the top 6 places. 10 or 11 minutes behind them, the group containing Lance Armstrong and the other big names was just hitting the slopes of the Monte Laurent-Jalabert.
This is the big sorting out of the top 10 places in the overall classification at the Tour, because Ivan Basso here has decided he wants to have the big sort out.
Well, Cadel Evans with a 15-second gain over Vinokourov would be up a place tonight, and that's why Vinokourov is trying to hitch on here. Jan Ullrich looking where his teammate is, because this all of a sudden is once more a battle of the strength. Basso followed by Armstrong, Cadel Evans. The pace has slowed a little bit because Ullrich is on. And where is Michael Rasmussen?
Well, I'm just looking down the road, and that's what this is all about. Here is Michael Rasmussen with Levi Leipheimer. And look at Cadel Evans. He's still in contact, Bill, with the 2 top men in the overall standings of the Tour. Ivan Basso in first place, Lance Armstrong in second.
And look at Jan Ullrich again, caught a little bit behind the rest on the steepest part of the climb towards the finish. He's been distanced here. There is Michael Rasmussen. He's been in that jersey ever since the mountains began. He is losing time, and it's crucial he doesn't lose much, because Ullrich will finish him off in the time trial, and he will be the 3rd man in the Tour then. Well, as our commissaire tries to get us out the way from the back car there, Armstrong has taken control over the top.
That's over the top of the climb. There's around about 1.5 kilometres to go to the finish. They'll get some respite here as they drop down to the bottom of the aerodrome, and then they'll take that left-hand turn and start to climb up.
It's a battle of seconds now. Armstrong is showing every time it gets a big battle. He's up to it. He mixes with them. His lead is in no danger. He's conserving all of his time gaps again tonight as we swing now onto the runway. It is Basso leading Armstrong, Cadel Evans, Jan Ullrich, and this is the sprint for the line, and I'm wondering if Cadel will try here. But look at the power of Lance Armstrong as he drives onto the runway. This is the lineup now for the finish.
Well, it's almost 10 minutes and 49 seconds since Marcos Serrano actually won the stage, but it's this battle behind, and it's amazing these riders, Phil, are battling out for seconds. They're not slowing down, they're sharing turns at the front, just keeping the pressure on, because the race is all about seconds for the placings in the overall standings.
They can't even raise the sprint past Armstrong here. They're letting him go over the line in first place. Hang on to his shirt here. Here comes Cadel Evans. This man is finishing the Tour strong, and he's going to climb 1 place in the overall tonight. He needs just 15 seconds, and he's already got 5 as I speak. Alexander Vinokourov, and Rasmussen is losing time, quite a lot of time really, to Jan Ullrich, although he will keep his 3rd place tonight, but for how much longer?
He will keep his 3rd place tonight, but it is starting to tremble quite a fraction, Phil. He's had to get onto the front to do all of the pacemaking up the finishing line here. Francisco Mancebo has come back to this group. I don't know where he came from, but that is a bad loss of time for Michael Rasmussen.
It is huge as they hit the line. 36 seconds they have lost there.
37 seconds it was rounded up to in the end, a big gap for a small climb, and Vinokourov and Rasmussen on the wrong side of it. Marcos Serrano, though, timed his move perfectly and joins Laurent Jalabert as the first man up the hill and over the finish at Mende. And here's what the climb did to the overall standings, specifically to the fight for third place on the podium in Paris, where Jan Ullrich pulled within 2 minutes 12 of Michael Rasmussen, with his strong event the time trial still to come. Other than that, Australia's Cadel Evans played his daily game of intercontinental leapfrog with Kazakhstan's Alexander Vinokourov. He was back to 7th again, with Vino 8th. With more yellow jerseys than anyone in Tour history but Eddie Merckx now, and more Tour wins of course than anyone full stop, Lance Armstrong was relaxed enough to preview the podium in Paris.
Basel second, Ullrich third.
Simple as that.
Simple.
Michael Rasmussen has rode bravely though, hasn't he?
He definitely rode bravely, and I don't know. It's tough to say because I don't know exactly what happened today, but I suspect maybe he was with us. No. He wasn't with us. I should know these things, but I think that those 30 seconds will be probably the 30 that knocks him off the podium, unfortunately for him. But he's rode a great race. I mean, if you consider the breakaway early in the race, which was incredibly impressive, and then to never lose time in the high mountains, chapeau.
Not a bad day then overall for Michael Rasmussen, a chapeau from the race leader, and almost forgotten because of the time he lost on that final climb. He was finally confirmed as the King of the Mountains, the first jersey of the race to be definitively tied up.
Michael, should we be congratulating you or commiserating? You've won the King of the Mountains, but you've lost 30 seconds on Jan Ullrich.
Well, I would say you should congratulate me, since I achieved the second goal that I came with here. So I don't think many riders they come here with two objectives and achieve both of them. So I'm relieved that I'll be on the podium in Paris regardless.
Stage 19 might have edged even the Alps and the Pyrenees for its setting, the strange and spectacular volcanic scenery of Le Puy-en-Velay. It was a short stage, 153 kilometres, but lumpy, and essentially the Tour's last chance for a successful breakaway. Well, half the field had a go, but a group of 4 eventually settled down to work together, and heading towards the finish, it was just a question of who had the nerve and the legs to jump at the right moment.
Now just bear in mind there are 2 Italians in this group, 1 Frenchman and 1 Spaniard. I wonder if there'll be any help between the 2 Spaniards, or whether we see Pereiro still wants it to work.
Now they won't work. Now Pereiro is in trouble. He's got to race for time, and they've stopped working now. They're all wanting the victory.
Can I just remind Oscar of something? Poe, when he was in a situation when there's a move by Guerini.
That should have been anticipated. Guerini's flown away. Look at them, look at each other. Goodbye, that's it. 1999 at Alpe d'Huez. There's no Eric on the road now. And Giuseppe Guerini, he's looked sharp all day. He's watched them look at each other, and he has gone.
He's got a big gap, and they're not reacting at all. Oscar Pereiro has lost it here this afternoon. Oscar, mate, if you want to keep that time, if you want to crack at the victory, get to the front and do some work, because now is the moment when you might lose it.
It's still a long way, 1,000 metres, because now he's made the acceleration, the legs will ache. But these boys have just made a present to Giuseppe Guerini, and this will be his 2nd ever stage win in the Tour de France, and it's a big result for T-Mobile, because there's the crowd, and Giuseppe Guerini, who won on top of Alpe d'Huez in 1999, is about to celebrate his 9th Tour de France with a stage victory here in Le Puy-en-Velay.
You know, Phil, this man we're looking at has not won a race since 2002 in March, and he is storming away with the victory here. He's all over his machine. Looks more like a crab than a professional bike racer, but that doesn't matter, because what it's doing, it's giving him forward motion at 45-50 kilometres an hour.
He comes up the little rise towards the line. He's won it by just judging his tactical move to absolute perfection. And the 3 behind, well, there'll be trouble in camp today, because a Frenchman's beaten the game back there in Saint-Nicassar. But now he sees the finish for the first time. Off that bend, drives on, just make sure there's nobody there. This was a well-taken attack. He hit them at exactly the right moment, and he probably went 1,400 metres from the finish. Giuseppe Guerini has won his 2nd stage ever in the Tour de France, and it looks as though Saint-Nicassar is the rider who will kick himself. He comes over 2nd for France, followed by Pelazzotti and Oscar Pereiro.
Well, he looks old enough to be driving the T-Mobile team car, Giuseppe Guerini. Perhaps that's what paid off. Experience told him when to jump, and the result was a great stage win. The main field came in over 4 minutes behind him, and at the front of it McEwen, Hushoft and O'Grady split the green jersey points between them. There's the result. Guarini ahead of his breakaway companions, with McEwen, Hushoft and O'Grady too close to change the green jersey standings, and all the other big names finishing safely in the bunch. Well, he won a stage in Lance Armstrong's first Tour victory in 1999, and now he's won one in his last, which is more than can be said for the man himself. Proof that a chancer can nick a stage even at the age of 35 if he picks his chance carefully. No change at the top of the overall standings though, where the podium is set except for third place, Jan Ullrich lurking darkly over Michael Rasmussen's polka-dotted shoulder. Well, Guarini's bookend stage wins can only have served to underline Lance Armstrong's lack of one in his farewell tour. After the break, it'll be his very last chance, stage 20, the individual time trial.
Ciao, sono Giuseppe Guarini e restate con noi, torniamo dopo la pubblicità.
Some new feelings that make you uncomfortable. Bring out all the good in me, yeah. I say what I'll never be. Cause I got me some reason to look on my keys in the car that we're taking home. So won't you say what you said to me on the roof of your house? Cause I've been having my doubts, oh yeah, yeah. Don't know what we could be. Sometimes I feel we're nothing, but you talk like we're something. I guess now we're giving it a try. I like the way you describe it to people who won't go quiet. Yeah, 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 oh. Cause every day I'm reminded of all the descriptions I could make. Yeah, yeah, oh.
There's no quibbling with 7 Tour de France victories. I mean, if someone makes sporting history on the scale that Lance Armstrong has, you can't start picking holes in it, pointing out flaws in the gleaming chromework of his achievement. And yet Armstrong sets the standard so high that it becomes hard not to. And there was no ignoring the fact that after 19 stage wins spread over his previous 6 Tour victories, he was on the verge of arriving in Paris to set the seal on his 7th without one this year. So this stage was his chance to correct that annoying little deficiency and set the seal on his tour the way he does every year by winning the final time trial. The time trial is Armstrong's signature event, just like it used to be Chris Boardman's.
Well, this used to be my office where I used to earn my crust. That was pretty much on stage 1 of the Tour de France, a 55-kilometre time trial. After nearly 3,500 kilometres, countless metres of climbing is a wholly different animal. At least Michael Rasmussen's hoping so. He finished 174th on that tour opener. And if he wants to hold off Jan Ullrich, the gap of just 2:12, well, he's going to have to produce the time trial of his life. Jan Ullrich, well, he's made no secret of the fact into the press today that he actually wants to win this stage outright, as well as leapfrogging the Dane. And with the kind of deficit he's got, he's probably going to have to do one to achieve the other. Ivan Basso has dramatically improved his time trialling this year, and him, well, he doesn't have to produce anything near as dramatic to hold on to his 2nd place. Lance Armstrong is the obvious favourite for today, and he's actually still searching for his first stage win in the 2005 Tour. In fact, his first win of this season. He's going to be the man to beat, as has been the case for the last 7 years, and that's going to remain to be so for, well, at least the next 24 hours.
There's the Stage 20 profile, a difficult course to face after 3 weeks and 3,400 kilometres of racing, 55 hilly and extremely technical kilometres. Santiago Botero was one of the first to be caught out and nearly went for a swift half at the local bar. Then Lance Armstrong's teammate Paolo Savoldelli almost lost control at a roundabout just a couple of kilometres from the start, before Michael Rasmussen, fighting to retain 3rd place overall, did lose control at exactly the same spot. Vladimir Karpitz got round safely though, and he set the best early time, but that wasn't expected to survive the day, and certainly not the ride of the last man to start.
He's in the zone. He's in a moment of his life when it's only him. It's only about the bike in this 55.5 kilometre moment of truth for this man who, strangely enough, and I can hardly believe it, has not actually won a race so far this year, and he's setting himself up to win Tour de France number 7.
Almost smiling. I can't believe this. He's gone. digging into those pedals. No pull off the pedal this time for Armstrong. He is down the ramp for the last time in his career. We are looking at history here, and those big legs are now into a rhythm. Jan Ullrich, he looks like Jan of old. So at the moment we're looking at two pictures here. The rider on the right currently in third position, and on the left the counting down is the difference in the time between the two from fourth to third. And this man is closing in rapidly. Bobby Julich is on his way in. He's got well over a minute in hand on carpets, so Sastre failed to better carpets. Julich should knock this off the leaderboard because he has gained and gained and gained. This has been the old Bobby Julich, the man who has always ridden great time trials, flying the flag for his new team CSC, the team he credits with refining him, and he's riding again a great Tour de France. Look at the clock there, 1:14.51 for carpets. Rewrite it, 1:13 and 19 for Julich. He really increased once over the top of the col.
And here you can just see it is switched across. Jan Ullrich has climbed up into third place with a 1 second advantage now over Michael Rasmussen. I'm sure that is going to be around about 2 minutes at the end of the day. But you've just seen that Lance Armstrong has gone through the first kilometre check in second position only, by 7 seconds behind Ivan Basso, and that is a major surprise for me, but an indication that Basso could be the man of the future.
Ivan Basso of Team CSC having a real say in the race today.
Having a serious say in the race here this afternoon, and he's going around that corner using all of the road available to make sure that on these tight bends he doesn't lose any impetus, any momentum at all. And he's actually there, he's just catching Michael Rasmussen, who's having even more problems. Well, he just had a flat tyre.
I can't believe that. Poor Michael Rasmussen. Well, if he's losing his third place, but he's losing it with every excuse in the book. A crash, now a puncture. You can see what happened here. This is the back wheel. It looks like he pulled his wheel over, Paul. Wasn't a puncture. He's pulled his wheel over.
Well, that's bad luck. I think that could be a problem going back to the crash just a little earlier on, but this man is having a terrible day here.
Take a look at that face, Paul. This is Vinokurov in a very determined mood.
Well, this is probably the best time trial I think I've ever seen Alexander Vinokurov ride. Phil, he's very motivated because these roads around here are roads that he's trained on a number of occasions, and he stopped the clock with the best time there, 17 seconds faster than Bobby Julich. This man is on fire.
Oh, look at this. I can't believe what we're seeing now, because this is Rasmussen. I've never in my life called a time trial like this. This man has now crashed twice, and I think has had 4 bike changes.
It's a complete and utter disaster for the man who leads the King of the Mountains classification. Phil, everything is gone, his coordination, the lot.
It's now Jan Ullrich who is up into third place in the Tour de France. He's going to run close to catching Basso, but I don't think he can get the time back. At the moment, Armstrong leads Basso by 4 minutes 4, Jan Ullrich by 6 minutes 30. Lance Armstrong here, last time 3 weeks ago he had Jan Ullrich in his sights. He passed him a couple of kilometres from the finish. Now he's put 6 minutes into Michael Rasmussen. All of a sudden Rasmussen is having a terrible Tour de France, and it's not all his fault, but Armstrong must think, wow, I must be going good. He doesn't know, of course, this man's changed his bike 4 times and fallen off twice.
Yeah, very sad, I think, for the man who has been one of the dominators, one of the aggressive riders of the event, Michael Rasmussen there, just being caught and passed by Lance Armstrong.
Down to the finish, this is going to be interesting. The first man who might challenge Bobby Julich, he was 17 seconds behind him. Alexander Vinokurov races home as he hits the line. His best time, 1:13.02. The 17 seconds survived. He kept them all. He now is the new leader. Basso has gone out very, very quick, and he certainly threw a shockwave around the camp when we saw that first time check, 7 seconds quicker than Armstrong. By the second time check, he was 53 seconds behind him.
Was a long way back, and I think it's all to do with that very rapid start. But this is going to be a brand new best time here for Jan Ullrich. He's set the race on fire this afternoon. He's looking at the time of Alexander Vinokurov. The clock is 1:13.02, and Ullrich is going to go almost a minute faster than his Kazakh teammate as he comes up to the line. Ullrich now gets the best time, 1:12.09, 53 seconds faster, and look at that average speed on a course like this, 45 kilometers an hour. This is probably going to be the last dance for Lance this afternoon as he heads out into the outskirts of Saint-Etienne. Just watch the way he goes through this corner, sweeps across the apex, not even a blip on the horizon. He doesn't change his trajectory one fraction to keep his speed nice and high. I would estimate here he's probably riding at around about 55 kilometers an hour.
Basso probably has done enough now to keep his second place finish in the Tour de France. All that pain has been worthwhile, but he had to get plenty of time in the mountains to hold off a fighting Jan Ullrich. The best time is still 1:20.09 as Basso finishes 1.5 minutes slower. He drops behind Julich in fourth.
Already in the streets of Saint-Etienne is the man from the Lone Star state of Texas. Lance Armstrong is ticking his legs over as he was over the first kilometre of this time trial at around, look at that, Phil, that is poetry in motion.
It is the picture we will never see again. All of the following cars behind a rider in yellow we've come to know since 1999, the master of the race of truth, and that's what it's been today for everybody. And don't mention poor old Michael Rasmussen either. Armstrong is you won't believe what the crowd are doing here. They are leaping in every direction as Lance Armstrong brings his time trialing career in any race, particularly the Tour de France, to an end. He brings it to an end as a winner. The first ever stage he has won this year, the first bike race he has won this year. Armstrong wins the time trial and wins the Tour de France.
Well, Lance said he wanted to win this year in front of his children, and the full modern family unit was there to greet him at the end. Luke, the twins, his mum, and Sheryl Crow. The win was far from easy, though. On the opening day of the Tour, Armstrong beat Jan Ullrich by 1 minute and 6 seconds over 19 kilometres. 3 weeks later, it was 23 seconds over 55. Alexander Vinokourov produced a great ride for third, so too did Bobby Julich, beating his team leader Ivan Basso into fifth, with Floyd Landis sixth. The early leader Vladimir Karpitz held on for 10th, but Michael Rasmussen finished 77th, 7 minutes 47 down. The penultimate yellow jersey of Lance's career then, the final one due in Paris with the Arc de Triomphe as a backdrop. And there's pretty much the final look of the standings. Armstrong's lead up to 4 minutes 40 over Ivan Basso, with Jan Ullrich assured of third at 6 minutes 21, ahead of Francisco Mancebo, Levi Leipheimer and Alexander Vinokourov. Those four men all overhauled poor Michael Rasmussen, who slipped not just off the podium, but off the first page of the graphics too. Armstrong, though, finally had his stage win, just in time for retirement.
You know, I was ambivalent. I wanted to go as hard as I could. I wanted to, as I always like to do, I wanted to represent the yellow jersey and prove that they're the strongest in the race. But quite honestly, I wasn't absolutely sure I could do it. I thought Jan would be strong. And then when I got to the first check, I saw that D-Bahn was 7 seconds up. I thought, oh boy, you know, this could be an interesting day. And you have to be prepared to lose. And at that point, try to ride safely and conservatively, especially on the downhill. I knew it was tricky and technical, and it turned out that ended up turning things around and winning. So, pleasant surprise. It's nice just to be done, to be retired and move on in life and take care of these three guys.
And now that Daddy had his stage win, everybody could relax and look forward to a family day out in Paris. We'll have stage 21 after the break.
Ciao, sono Ivan Basso, il tour continua anche dopo la pubblicità.
The Tour de France on ITV, sponsored by Michelob Ultra.
Well, if Lance Armstrong comes back to Paris, he'll have to cope with the traffic like everybody else. Stage 21 was his last ever visit as part of the privileged fraternity which has the clout to get the Champs-Élysées closed each July.
There's a look at the final stage of his career, very much a stage once it gets to the film set of central Paris, 144.5 kilometres, with the last 55 or so of them on the Champs-Élysées itself. At the start there was the last pre-race scrum of Lance's career, shortly to be followed by the last post-race scrum, of course, and it didn't really stop even once he was moving. Expect to see some of those items on eBay later. Instead of the usual show of team solidarity, it was a solitary and stately progress towards Paris for Lance, shaking hands and acceding to requests, most of them anyway. Well, that sounds fairly definitive, which means that this is Lance Armstrong's last trip onto the Champs-Élysées, which is where we join the action.
There's the main field out front.
Well, they've actually been brought back in.
Antonio Fletcher on the computer. I thought he looked a bit big for him, but it doesn't matter anyway because they're all over the top and we're all together. And 3.5 kilometres to go.
And now the chaos of the last 3 kilometres. There's going to be a lot of movement up at the front end of the main field. Riders will take incredible risks here, Phil, to make sure they get themselves into the right place for the final corner.
Now the Lotto boys of Robbie McEwen, who has won twice here. Laurent Brochard doesn't want a sprint. The ex-World Road Race champion with who else? Alexander Vinokourov. This is more like a horse race on opposite sides of the rails.
This is unbelievable. They're throwing complete and utter caution to the wind. Alexander Vinokourov is a great battler. I think if they had to pick the most aggressive rider, it must have been very difficult between Oscar Pereiro and Alexander Vinokourov. They've stretched out the race into a long line once more. This is the last time they'll go round the Place de la Concorde, and now you can see the sprinters starting to move up to set themselves up for what they hope will be a winning position.
Well, I hope they can get themselves into a position here, because look at Alexander Vinokourov now, again pulling a face here and going for gold. He may not know there's no bonuses here. He might think he's racing for 5th place in the Tour de France, but they've been cancelled. He's got up to the leaders now. The sprinters are trying to organise at the back.
Well, I think he's trying to organise himself here for the win of the stage, but looking back you can see they've got a slight advantage. Panic on board in the streets of the sprinters, because absolutely this is a good move by Alexander Vinokourov.
Look at his strength. He's trying to hold off the whole field here, and we saw him do it earlier on today. We've got another rider there from AG2R, but I'm not too sure. It doesn't look like Simon Goering. It's a bit too big for Simon. As we've got 2 kilometres to go, they are still clear going into the tunnel.
Hushoff up into about 5th or 6th place. He's looking good. I still couldn't see Robbie McEwen. He's such a hard man to spot, and then all of a sudden he always pops up right at the very end.
Well, they're queuing up for the tunnel now, but it's the riders in the top 20 who come out the other end who'll be fighting out for the win. There's 3 of them now. Looks like it might be McGee who's reached them here. 3 riders going around the bend onto the Rue de Rivoli. 1 mile to go, less now, as we'll shortly see the kilometre over the head. There'll be a red kite attached to that now.
Well, that's a good gap that they've got, and all you need is a little bit of chaos to come from the sprinters, and you've got the gas.
They could beat the sprinters at their own game. There's somebody dived over to the left of the picture. Francois de Jeu has gone clear. As 1 kilometre to go to the finish now. He's sprinting with the power of Brad McGee, but I don't think it is Brad McGee. Just need to see his face a little bit. It is big grips here, and Vinokourov is on his wheel, and this is McGee, I think, going for it.
Well, they're all over the road, and the sprinters, I think, Phil, have been foxed and cheated. They're inside the kilometre. Vinokourov is right on the wheel there. They're onto the Place de la Concorde now, ducking and diving. Do not play the tactical game now, because when you get a gap like this on the sprinters, you've got to throw caution to the wind.
As we turn onto the finishing straight, it's never been seen for a few years. McGee taking on Vinokourov, and somebody trying to reach here. But that is a brilliant Brad McGee, who's had such a poor tour. He's now trying to finish it off with flying colours. He's going to have to dig deep, because right behind him is Alexander Vinokourov, and I think Cancellara trying to reach them as well. Alexander Vinokourov, on many occasions, the man of the Tour de France, is getting his 2nd stage victory, as Brad McGee will take 2nd for Australia. That is an incredible, incredible win for Alexander Vinokourov.
Well, if anybody deserved a win for sheer relentlessness, often in the face of all logic, it was Alexander Vinokourov. Lance Armstrong finished in his traditional final stage spot, safely in the bunch. It was his day, of course, but there was a small pause for the Kazakh audience to get their money's worth. Brad McGee gets marked for trying to redeem an otherwise anonymous tour, but he didn't have the legs when it mattered. Fabian Cancellara was 3rd. As far as the green jersey was concerned, the contenders all finished too close together to make any real difference in the standings. Robbie McEwen was 4th, 1 place ahead of Stuart O'Grady. Hushoff finished 7th, but his hold on the title was never under real threat. So, the most prestigious stage win of the race to a T-Mobile rider, although it's one which makes absolutely sure that he'll be leaving for a team leader's role elsewhere next season. And that win, surprisingly, moves Vinokourov up into 5th place in the final standings. The race organisers originally said there'd be no bonus seconds available on the line, but they changed their minds apparently, and 20 seconds for the stage win was enough to lift him past Levi Leipheimer. Otherwise, it's an unchanged classification. Lance Armstrong winning his 7th consecutive tour, 4 minutes 40 ahead of Ivan Basso in 2nd place. Jan Ullrich 3rd at 6 minutes 21. Then behind Francisco Mancebo, Vinokourov and Levi Leipheimer. From 7 to 12, the positions are absolutely unchanged. Before the formal team lap of honour, Lance Armstrong took a solo one, past a fully colour-coordinated Sheryl Crow and the kids, and then it was onto the podium for the last time in his career. He'll never see Paris from this vantage point again, and Paris will never see anything like him. For the first time in Tour history, there was even a winner's speech, and after tributes to Jan Ullrich and Ivan Basso, Armstrong addressed those around the world who refused to believe that his transformation from cancer victim to Tour champion was a clean one.
I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry you can't dream big, and I'm sorry you don't believe in miracles. But this is one hell of a race. This is a great sporting event, and you should stand around and believe. You should believe in these athletes, and you should believe in these people. And I'm a fan of the Tour de France for as long as I live, and there are no secrets. This is a hard sporting event, and hard work wins it. So, vive le Tour, forever. Thank you.
After Armstrong's address to the planet, the usual ceremonial order was resumed, as he stood for the traditional 4-jersey podium, with Thor Hushovd, who held on to win green in the points competition, Michael Rasmussen, a stylish king of the mountains, and Armstrong's own designated successor, Jaroslav Popovic, in the white jersey of the best young rider. Each was a worthy winner, and perhaps the biggest honour for all three was their proximity to the man in the middle.
Well, so many great athletes hang on for longer than those of us who watch them would like, but Chris Boardman, Lance Armstrong has left this race the way he's always ridden it, which is completely on his own terms.
Absolutely, we've been rolling out superlatives all day, and I'm afraid he deserves every single one of them. He's done something absolutely unique, but one thing's for sure, next year's tour is going to be very, very interesting.
Very interesting. I mean, just try and place him in history for us if you could. Everybody will always look to Eddie Merckx when they look at cycling greats, but in terms of the tour, perhaps Lance is even better than him.
Well, he is. He's proved that, 7 times in a row. His tour record is absolutely fantastic, but perhaps not in the greater world of cycling, but as far as this event is concerned, Lance is very much on the top.
Well, no doubt in due course there'll be Lance Armstrong, the movie, but I doubt it'll be able to match the real-time documentary we've been privileged to watch over the last 30
I got some new feelings that make you uncomfortable. Bring out all the good in me, yeah. I say what I'll never be, 'cause I got me some reason to lock all my keys in the car that we're taking home. So won't you say what you said to me on the roof of your house, 'cause I've been having my doubts, oh yeah, don't know what we could be. Sometimes I feel we're nothing, you talk like we're something. I guess now we're giving it a try. I like the way you describe it.